Hi, David Williams here. For those of you who don't know me, I am the CEO of Verisource. We are an IT hardware distributor with special focus on server, storage, and networking, although we handle a lot of the other peripherals for the IT market as well. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about controllers, hard drive backplanes, and why I usually recommend to my clients that if you're using between 9 to 16 hard drives, why you'd want to utilize a higher end controller rather than a lower end controller with the SAS Expander. Now specifically we're going to talk about HPE ProLiant because that's our core product line, but I would like to encourage you, regardless of what manufacturer you're utilizing, that if you're falling into that window, that you think higher end controller rather than low end controller with SAS Expander. Let's talk about the three different types of controllers you're going to see with the HPE ProLiant series. First is the onboard controller. This one is physically integrated into the system board. It only supports up to 12 drives, it only supports SATA drives, it has no cache, and you do not want to utilize this for virtualization. Next, we have the ARock controller. This does all the things that onboard controller doesn't do. It has cache, supports SAS, virtualization is great, can handle a lot more than 12 drives. This has a specific port on it that allows it to plug directly into the motherboard. There's an isolated port on the system board that allows you to plug into. Then there's a PCI controller. This works the exact same as the ARock controller. The only difference is that instead of plugging into the system board, it actually plugs into a PCI slot. Regardless of which controller you utilize, there are physical ports on each one that allow you to plug a SAS cable into it, and that SAS cable at the other end is usually connected directly to the backplane where the drives are plugged into. Now each port on the backplane talks to 4 drives. Now the onboard controller has a total of 3 ports, allowing it to speak to 12 drives, but as I mentioned before, there's problems with that one, specifically virtualization, lack of cache, things of that nature, and not supporting SAS drives. So the ARock or the PCI controller is what we see most often. The P408 ARock controller only has 2 ports, which means it allows it to talk directly to 8 drives. Versus the P816 has 4 ports, it allows it to speak with 16 drives. Now, a lower end controller can talk to more drives than just 8, but you need something called a SAS Expander. What a SAS Expander does is allow you to plug a cable into your controller. It then goes into a PCI card, and it turns that one controller port into multiple outlets, so it can plug into multiple backplane ports, allowing it to manage more than the 4 drives. The reason I wanted to discuss the P816 versus the P408 is because I think most of the time, if you're doing between 9 to 16 hard drives, it makes more sense to utilize the P816 controller rather than a P408 plus a SAS Expander. And here's why. Reason number 1, price. And it's the reason that we're even having this conversation. Most people come to me and think that a P408 plus a SAS Expander is going to be more cost effective, when most of the time the P816 as a standalone is slightly cheaper and has more functionality. 2, let's talk about the functionality. The P816 comes standard with 4 gigs of cache versus the ARock P408, which only has 2 gigs of cache. 3, smart cache. If you have a flash solution, so SSDs, the P816i comes standard with smart cache licensing. To have that benefit with the P408 is going to cost you around another $170. Number 4, space. With the SAS Expander, you're utilizing a PCI slot, which you wouldn't have to do if you were just using the P816. Number 5, latency. If you have a flash solution and running multiple SSDs on the same lanes, the P408, you have a higher risk of a latency issue. Versus the 816i, you have more lanes, you won't run into latency problems. For those reasons, I encourage you to look at a higher end controller when configuring between 9 to 16 hard drives, rather than a low end controller with a SAS Expander. I hope this was beneficial to you. If you have any questions or have any needs for IT hardware, please contact us at verisource.com or call us directly. Thank you.